Good morning, friends.
Hi!
Yay! We
Oh
did
my gosh,
it.
we did so smoothly. How did that
I'm
happen?
so impressed.
I know, me
I'm always
too. I love your
like,
necklace.
oh boy, I hope this works.
I know. I feel that way pretty much about everything we do. I'm like, oh, God, let this work.
Why? Nothing like flying by the seat of our pants.
I love it. It's
You know, it's
what
a great example of full surrender and
a
trust.
100%. I could not agree more with you. Yes. Okay, so I went through and I pulled through some messages before we got on for things like the Schumann resonance and stuff like that.
Oh,
So
cool. Good. Okay, great. Well, I'll just officially, I see a bunch of people jumping on here. So thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Liv Toepfer at the Center for Harmonic Resonance, and my co-host here is Stephanie Yonan with Full Circle. Um, I am a yoga meditation teacher and spiritual guide, and I'm officially calling myself an astrologer, but that's really because I've been self-trained and obsessed, and it feels more like a remembrance. And so I'm excited to share some of my particular understandings of the astrology today. And Stephanie is an incredible psychic intuitive coach and has just been a huge blessing in my own life. And she and I have been collaborating on quite a few things. So we're really excited to welcome you to the Elemental Awakening through the Portal of Fire. Dun, dun, dun. Just really quick before we begin. So we wanted to connect today because we are in an extremely powerful week. I've been looking at the astrology of 2025 for really the last 2 years. So if you've come to my full moon circles, you have probably heard me talking about it, and everything that we've been doing has kind of been leading up to this moment. And 2025, really kind of all encompassing before we dive into the details of it, is a sneak preview energy for what's to come really in 2026. And we're really kind of at the crux of this energy from 2025 to 2032. That is at the peak moment of the ascension process for the awakening of Mother Earth herself. And as neurons of Mother Earth, like we are the elements, we are the earth, and we are very much part of this process. So as Earth's energies shift and move in her own ascension journey, we are therefore shifting and moving. And this is why the elements have been coming in so loudly. Mother Earth has been coming in so loudly, which Stephanie will share more about that. But it really is this time to connect with the earth, to reconnect with the elements, and that includes the cosmic energies. The way I see astrology is through the lens of the soul's perspective and why our souls are here in this pivotal moment on planet Earth in this awakening process. We really, everyone is here for this process, whether you agree with their opinions or not, and whether you feel in alignment with them or not. We are all here to create a specific resonance and a harmony to really shift into an entire new paradigm. And so that's what I'm excited to talk about today. Stephanie, do you have anything you want to say before we kind of dive into the details?
no, I agree with everything you're saying very much.
Okay, cool. So, on that note of the ascension process, we are kind of when you zoom out, and you'll hear me say this all the time, we are at the end of many different cycles. And so, the one that I'm kind of zooming out the most on is the end of the precessional cycles, the precession of the equinoxes. This is this huge 26,000 year cycle. And within that, there are other cycles that are either kind of in a loop or coming to a close or completion, or even like this choice point kind of test moment for where we decide to be in our consciousness. So there's the end of a 26,000 year cycle, a 12,000 year cycle. There's the Kali Yuga is a 6,000 year cycle, which comes to an end at the end of March this year, which is interesting if Stephanie has anything to kind of feel into that energy. The Kali Yuga is part of this kind of, it's the Hindu perspective of these cycles of energies that are more on that larger 26,000 year wheel. And Kali Yuga is the the darkest one. Like you've kind of made it all the way around 26,000 years, and we've been going through 6,000 years of war and violence and thinking that we're separate from source or separate from our divine aspect of self. And we've seen that through suppression, kind of the dumbing down of our own body technology and our abilities and our magic, and this understanding of our connection to the earth and the elements. And so as we come to this close of the Kali Yuga, it's kind of like saying it's always darkest before dawn, right? And the next era that we shift into is the golden age. And so we're really coming in as brave spiritual warriors, as doulas, really harnessing this energy of pure potential of what we know that we are at a divine level. And we're taking that into a new cycle. So we're coming in really in the most challenging point where, it's almost getting to a point where things are so up in the air and changing so fast because we're in this accelerated evolution. And, I've only been kind of diving into astrology for really, really deeply to learn it and teach it the last 5 years. And so I ask my astrologer teachers all the time, like, has it always been this insane? Because I pretty much have been learning it one insane transit at a time where everything seems like this is the most rare, insane thing. And they're like, no, it used to be pretty mundane. It was like pretty normal, like unfolding. And now it's just like, bam, bam, bam. Are you awake yet? Are you awake yet? Are you ready yet? And it's really pushing us to the edge to know thyself, but not like just the human self. That's an important part because we are here in the earth plane, in the 3D reality where we've really actually shifted and we're splitting in between 3D and 4D right now, where we're starting to understand time differently. And we're starting to understand our ability to co-create in this time-space continuum and to be these co-creators of reality, and understanding that our reality through quantum physics is this projection of our inner world. So to me, as we look at these astrological alignments, they are codes that are deeply embedded in our bones, in our cellular memory complex, and they are inviting us to go inside. The awakening is an involution of our evolution. It is an inner journey to really understand who we are and how we connect to all the magic around us, all of the unseen realms, to our own abilities as this quantum body technology, and to use the astrological alignments as codes and guides along the way. So if you look at everything as source energy and consciousness itself, then the planets provide a conscious energy to tune into. So it's not that the planets are governing us or doing anything to us, but they are an energy vibration that is present on the earth plane and that is moving through us, within us. It is us, and it is asking us to listen. And it's just getting louder and louder and louder. And so where we sit right now, this week in March, I wanted to kind of give just a super quick recap on March itself, because there was a lot of really pivotal moments in March. We started March 1st with Venus at a standstill at 9 degrees Aries. And I mention that because that's an important code, because at 9 degrees Aries, we also had Mercury the day after the Virgo lunar eclipse on March 14th. That was a huge eclipse. It was in opposition to the sun in Pisces, which we'll talk about in a minute, which has a huge stellium going on. So there's a lot of energy coded in the Pisces energies. So we had that March 14th Virgo eclipse. So we have Virgo Pisces energies, and then Mercury the very next day, also at 9 degrees of Aries, went retrograde. And so to me, that's like, wow, that's really interesting, because 9 degrees Aries is also where this solar eclipse is happening this Saturday on March 29th. So to me, that's 3 knocks. That's like 9 degrees, 9 degrees, 9 degrees, pay attention, which is, everything is codes. Everything is coded in numbers, signs, symbols, synchronicities, and it's just asking you to pay attention. So I did look up the Sabian symbol. I've been loving that. The Sabian symbols were channeled messages in like the 1920s. A psychic channeled message for each one of the degree points in the entire zodiac wheel. And I looked up 9 degrees Aries because this feels like a special code. And so I know Stephanie's going to channel some energy specifically what she's tuning into, but I thought it was really interesting if we're looking at this as like, beginning of March was almost like the calm before the storm. We're looking at a couple key like nods, like, hey, pay attention here. We had the lunar eclipse, which is a big, the full moon is always a clearing out, a closing out of what is old. It was a karmic clearing and a reset to prepare essentially for this new initiation cycle in Aries, which is the first sign of the zodiac, fire energy, a new start, let's go energy. But the Sabian symbol of 9 degrees is a crystal gazer, focusing the subtle mind, awakening the non-grasping, all-seeing subtle aspect of mind. It is the sensitive visionary concentration of attention and being able to see the whole picture, the mature psychic envisioning the holistic context. This perspective is not given to one lost in narcissistic self-love or obsessed with self-projection. So to me, this is a heads up of the fire and water energy that we're really sitting in between right now. We have 5 planets sitting in Pisces in the final degrees of Pisces, which is the void. It is a completion, the very last 5 degrees of the entire zodiac wheel. We have the North Node there. We have Saturn there. We have Venus just entered back into Pisces in its retrograde. And we have Neptune sitting there in the 29th degree, the very final degree, waiting to enter into Aries. And so this 9 degrees is asking us to step into our spiritual warrior with a clear mind, connected to our hearts. So in this coherence, as the one that rises above, kind of calling in that Neptunian energy that is the dreamer, that is the far out beyond higher frequency energies, and pulling this wisdom in, pulling in our multidimensional selves, pulling in that flow of water energy. So we think of Aries as the initiator, the warrior, the like fast moving, can tend to lean into that, has a reputation for being the god of war and these like intense energies and moving too fast. But actually this 9 degrees Aries is already sensing the energy of Neptune coming in, which is water. And so it's actually asking us in this Aries moment and season, while we might think we might be going fast and calling in that fire, it's actually asking us for a slowdown. It is going to be moving fast, but we're not meant to get like swept away by the energies of fire, that we're actually meant to balance that fire and water energy that is sitting over there working with us in Pisces. So I thought this was really beautiful, reminding us the 9 degrees is saying this is the ending of ego, like bringing ego with us through this ascension journey is not going to work anymore. And I do think anywhere we are out of balance in that egoic mind and in that like power over people, which is kind of where we're seeing the energy play out on the world stage and the governments and with the countries, and kind of that ripple effect that happened when Pluto moved into Aquarius and was kind of doing its part for the death and rebirth of all of the structures that Capricorn rules, like the education systems, the governments, finance, bank, real estate, all of that, 3D world, if you will, ruled by Saturn sitting in Neptune, bringing in new energies around that. So this year is really important because we have all of the outer signs moving into new signs over the course of 2025 and 2026. So I will touch on that Neptune moving into Aries, coming up the very next day after the eclipse. So we have this Aries eclipse at 9 degrees the Aries eclipse at 9 degrees on Saturday, March 29th. And that is, again, calling on the warrior aspect of you, but the spiritual warrior. It's that one that is grounded, slow, and utilizing fire as passion, utilizing fire as inspiration, and going inwards and asking yourself, in balance with that Piscean energy, like, what am I trying to bring into this reality? If we are in this ascension process and we are at the end of the Kali Yuga and we are moving into the golden age, what does that mean? Like, what can I let go of and release in this old paradigm as I witness the collapse of what is still power hungry in a out of balance way. We want power, but we want empowerment. We want embodiment. We want, thoughtfulness, love, consideration for others, consideration of the planet, consideration of being in right balance and harmony with the elements around us. And really going higher to bring in our higher self dreams and our soul dreams, tapping into our soul blueprints and codes and what we're meant to anchor here, and realizing that it's not just a concept. This is for real, it's happening. And when you go in and tap into this, and as Stephanie kind of shares some of this energy, like this isn't just like I've been experiencing this and feeling this in my own bones and in my dreams, that we are really truly in a moment of shifting realities, and we're just the bridge right now in between 3D and 5D, and kind of playing in that 4D realm where we're learning to stretch time. And I messaged Stephanie this morning, like, can you talk about time bending? I think that keeps coming up. But the next day after the eclipse, so eclipses are always intense, and they're felt for a month prior, and we'll be feeling these eclipse energies for a year later. So astrology can be tricky because we can sometimes hear all this going on and expect to see it in the here and now immediately. And sometimes it does. Like this past year, we've seen it happen in real time on the day of some of these transits. And other times it's like an energy has moved in, and then we're working with that energy for a year. And so it might take a while to unfold or to realize. And it's more about stepping into the flow of that and seeing what these conscious energies are asking of us, and getting in alignment with it and harmonizing, so that it doesn't have to be chaotic or a collapse, but sometimes it can look like that as a way to awaken. So if we're looking to, if we're being shook and awaken, then that can look really loud in your life for where things might be in front of you because they're for you. They're asking you to listen, to pay attention. So we'll have Stephanie tune into that, because I think there are some things just kind of playing out in the world that might look a little bit more chaotic, a little bit more like a shakeup, a little bit louder, a little bit more in that fire energy. But what we're being asked to do is to really hone in to our spiritual practices, our whatever that looks like for you, our meditations, to go inwards, to find stillness, to really go tap into our heart and connect with our higher self, and bring through those codes that are wanting to come through, that are loving and in these higher frequency energies, and our new dreams that are going to be in alignment with the new energies that are coming. The next day, March 30th, Sunday, we have officially Neptune moving into Aries at the 0 degree point. This is a huge deal because Neptune hasn't been in Aries for 165 years. And the 0 degree point is the very first degree of the entire zodiac. So Aries is the very first sign. So this is what's known as the creator degree. It's a critical degree. It's an initiation point. So it's a really loud, new cycles are beginning. And we've already had Venus and Mercury move over those degree points as they worked their way up to that 9 degrees Aries, and then moved retrograde. They're moving back over that 0 degrees point as they move back into Pisces in the retrograde, and they will move over that degree point again. So that degree point is going to get a lot of action. So if you have 0 degrees in any of the cardinal signs, the 0 degrees Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Sagittarius, or sorry, Capricorn, those are all going to be activated. That's the world axis. The mutable signs are really in there too. Anything from like 25 degrees to definitely 2 degrees, but maybe even a little upwards of 4 degrees within any of those signs. Those are going to be highly personal and activating the world stage and activating your own energies. And so it's just time to pay attention to see what those messages are that are coming in, see what those nudges are for you that are coming in. But Neptune is a, really far out there planet. So it governs dreams. It governs higher frequency energies, our galactic connections, These higher frequency light codes are coming in. I had a dream the other day seeing this huge portal of white light come in and spread out and activate the entire Earth grid, which is why I asked Stephanie if she could kind of tune into that and kind of take a peek into what these energies are that are coming in for Neptune. Um, the way that we're going to kind of read into this energy is, Neptune is governing all of our spiritual tools, multidimensional realities, psychic abilities, telepathic abilities. I think this is the way of the spiritual warrior as we bring in this water consciousness and higher frequencies to seed Aries for the next 14 years. It's going to be there till 2039. But if we look back astrologically in history, it was the last time Neptune was in Aries was in like 1861, and that was the Civil War. That was the French Revolution. That also included a time period of both world wars and several wars. So it carries this balance of revolution energies. There's other things. There's other dynamics at play with Uranus shifting into new signs. I'm trying to really focus. It's also dynamic because there's so much at play that really interact with each other. But for the moment, I'm trying to focus on just these couple of current shifts that are coming in. But because of other things at play too, there is an energy of revolution, a rising of the people, I'm done with the power over and the suppression and the oppression. And there is a call to equality, and there's a call to stepping into your power. And that looks very different for people. It's, sometimes that's people being really called to take activism roles. And for others, that's like, no, 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 that's not for me. I'm going to go in and embody this and live this way of peace and be a way shower. I'm going to be a teacher and somebody that's teaching and helping guide others that are waking up to their gifts or waking up to, the way they maybe used to think about the government. And now they're like, oh my God, everything I believed isn't true anymore. Or, there's lots of things that people are waking up to. And some people are meant to be way showers to help be guides along the way to anyone that's caught in confusion in this transition. Neptune can also bring in that energy of confusion and illusion and having a lack of clarity because it is so far out and it is watery and it can kind of move in a way that you almost can't catch it like a slippery fish. So I'm personally excited about it. I'm interested to see what Stephanie says because when I look at the astrology, when we have this ingress into Aries, it will be there from March 30th until like September. And in May, we have Saturn that's also in Pisces right now, moving into Aries as well. And those will both only go to like the 2-degree point, and then they'll retrograde back in September and October. So we'll kind of get a taste of these new energies, and then they'll retrograde back later. And then February 2026, what's really exciting to me is that both Neptune and Saturn will be walking in hand to Aries, to that 0-degree point. And they both do synodic cycles together all the time, but it's never happened before, ever in the history of recording astrology, for Neptune and Saturn to be together at the 0-degree point of the very first degree in Aries. So it is really, Saturn is the planet, governs like our 3D reality, the earth plane, what is real, what is structure, what is here and now, what is tangible. It is, the government, structures, boundaries, schools, all the physical form. And boundaries is a key word there. And then Neptune is all the opposite of that. It's the higher frequencies, the unknown, the dreamy, the no boundaries. And what I see is the heavenly energies and the earthly energies coming together. So it's like bridging this new earth seed that we're all calling in this ascension process as we shift into the golden age. So it is like being the cosmic shaman. The Saturn is like the cosmic shaman, bringing in the higher frequency energies through Neptune and then working together to begin this new cycle for the next 1,000 years, however this is going to happen. So I think in the process of that, there might be all this shaking up and chaotic energies as we move and shift energy to make our way to this point. So that's why this year, for the next few months until the fall, will be kind of a taste of what's to come, which might look a little bit unstable until we settle into it next year in 2026. And then, so I don't talk too much, just kind of looking ahead, so I've covered the eclipse, Neptune, Saturn. We also have the North Node that all the last 18 months until January this year was in Aries Libra. That's why all of the eclipses last year were in Aries Libra. So we were working out our warlike energies, our separateness, our who am I, which was really meant to call us into balance and harmony that Libra asks for, and to tone down the warring version of ourselves and stepping into that spiritual warrior version of ourselves, like really looking at like, who am I in relationship to the earth? Who am I in relationship to others and my spiritual practice and my belief systems, and what I want to bring forth in this new reality that's coming, and this wake up call. So this eclipse is the last of that Aries Libra axis, and the North Node in January moved into Pisces. So for the next 18 months until July 2026, we have this Piscean energy that is, the North Node is kind of like our soul mission for the collective. So everyone in the entire collective is going to move through this 18-month process of Pisces, and that is about our spiritual awakening and our spiritual tools and truth, right? Seeing through the illusions. It's calling in truth, and truth is a powerful vibration. And the truth of who we are, the truth in our body and our abilities, our psychic abilities, our intuitive abilities, understanding that telepathy is a real thing. If you haven't watched the telepathy tapes, it's so phenomenal that this is really coming through. And it's also realizing our connection as a galactic, member of the multiverse, the universe, understanding our multidimensional realities, which I would love Stephanie to tap into too. I just keep piling my list for her. I'm always like, can you talk to God? So anyway, in summary, we're moving through a lot with the last thing. Uranus is in Taurus and has been there since 2008. And Uranus is the great awakener planet. It is all about shock and surprise. It's lightning fast. It is the awakening energy. It comes in like a lightning bolt, and it can be shaky and unstable and really like move things. So in Taurus, it's been looking like movement of the earth, like kind of moving her energy through earthquakes and volcanoes, and the earth herself expressing energy. It also has been shaking up what we know about our food systems. And, like we're starting to get louder about how we feel poisoned in our water and our food, and demanding more visibility around that and clarity and cleaning it up, and an unhappiness, right? There's this underlying in all these signs, all these houses, that the collective is over it. We're over being lied to. We're over being poisoned. Our skies being sprayed, the chemtrails, like all the things that once upon a time felt like conspiracy theories are coming forth as real realities. And the collective is getting over it. And a lot of these planetary shifts are really making that a little bit louder. And so with Uranus in these final degrees of Taurus, anytime you're in that last decan, it's going to get shakier and louder and maybe more shocking. So I'm curious to see kind of what Mother Earth is saying about the awakening of Uranus in our final degrees around that. But then in July 7th, Uranus moves into Gemini, and that's where things get really fast. That is going to govern our communications, the rise of AI, transhumanism. It's going to get very speedy, but also to not get too distracted by that external technology. So is our internal technology. Our body technology is also equally, the organic is rising with the inorganic. So it's important to not get too caught up and to use that technology for, make it useful, but use it consciously. And how are we programming AI? Are we being kind and conscious in our use of it, and not overly using it where we lose our own power to it? So that's an important dynamic to pay attention to with Uranus moving into Gemini, which is, I think, on July 7th. That's also the US's Uranus return. So we are in the US birth chart. we had the Pluto return the last 2 years, Pluto moving into Aquarius. We had like the Uranus return, Neptune. I mean, all the things for the US. The US is a huge spotlight on the world stage for big changes happening here, big shakeups. So really needing to ground, come to your mat, your yoga practices, your outdoor, outside in nature, grounding, calming your nervous system, really coming into alignment and attunement with the elemental energies, which is, we're going to talk about that, elemental embodiments. But I feel like that's a lot. I'm going to let that kind of simmer down. We are recording this, so if you need to listen to it again and take notes or come back to anything, we'll have the replay up. But I would love to kind of turn this over to Stephanie and find out what you've tapped into kind of psychically, maybe explain how you do what you do that's so beautiful, and all the questions I've shared with you that people have had, and just kind of turn it over to you.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you so much. I was really excited. I took notes myself because I actually, I don't know how to do astrology myself. So I was picking up and marking down dates as you were talking to. I'm like, oh, that's something I need to pay attention to. So I thought that was really good. So a couple things, like it's hard because when I feel into it, like I can feel into like the Neptune with Aries, but I am feeling into an energy. And so that doesn't just mean Neptune and Aries. I think a lot of times, like when she's talking about that solar eclipse or the lunar eclipse, and then I'm also sensing, I think, further out than that at times. So it's like I'm pulling forward that energy, but I don't always know if it directly is just the Neptune and Aries. But I have a number of things, but I've been able to, like, as I actually pull down some of these questions and as I pull down the messages from the elements today, I've been able to connect things for myself a little bit more. So I feel like that might be good, even on like how and what we can kind of prepare for. So first, while you were talking, I was feeling into that 6,000 year end, and I very much agree with you. That whole 6,000 years was almost to disconnect us from food, from nature as medicine, and more into like pharmaceutical medicines. But it was kind of showing us that, like, you don't know connection without disconnection. Almost like that saying, like, you don't know, you can't see the light without the darkness, if that makes sense. So it was actually really important, 6,000 years. And for us to come back into reconnection, we needed to understand what being disconnected actually feels like. So we remember the importance of connection almost. I think sometimes, at least on this plane, we can begin to forget that and take things for granted. So it was almost like if this was just as important as everything else, because when we begin to reconnect, and I think to your point with Uranus and Taurus, I mean, like, Taurus rules the body. So we saw with COVID, right? Like, I mean, almost like immediately as that happened. But I also think during this time we saw a lot, because like I kept getting flashes of sicknesses. So I also feel like people were sick in their body, and it almost seemed like undiagnosable, like doctors couldn't diagnose it. So we also saw a rise of natural medicines again. So kind of connecting it all again, like everything within our body is connected, and we very much had started to look at it as being disconnected, and each part as an individual, and we're remembering how everything is connected. So again, it really felt actually quite important to go through that. Some of the major things energetically that I picked up, because I do very much agree with people's spiritual gifts coming online, but I really felt it finally more as like just their gifts. So I realized we needed to remove even like the word spiritual gifts or things like that, because what it really finally felt like to me, and when I finally, like, it clicked, was it was the rise of your gifts in general. And we are reconnecting. So we are remembering that we're one. And I think this is why the elements have been speaking so much, which I'll kind of go into that messaging. It all kind of connects, to be honest. And so we are one with the with the earth, we are one together. We are not separate. Like, and we are powerful. And I kept getting the vision of, and if you don't have kids, you're like going to be like, what are you talking about? But there was a Tinkerbell show, and they were all different types of fairies. There were the earth fairies, and there was the wind fairies, and I don't know, actually there was just like a ton of different. There was like the tinker fairies where they built stuff, and there were ones that gathered things, and there was ones that brought food back. Like they worked together in harmony. And I realized that's what's happening here. You're waking up to your gifts, because it actually is this powerful time of teaching us that we are individually powerful, but we are mega powerful together. And if we actually remember to work the way nature works, like in harmony with each other, when we roar big, and we each have a part. So we've got to understand like our purpose here. And with that, our gifts are very important. Just like everything in nature has a role, and nothing would work well without that person doing or that system doing its role. That's how we are. And so you are going to be woken up to your gifts. And I do think naturally we are all psychic beings. So there is going to be a level of intuition that we're waking up to, because again, we're finding just that power from within. And telepathy, I think it's like naturally in us, and it is going to be just reignited in a big way. So I do think just naturally that's who we are. I don't even know if after a while we'll call them gifts, because we realize again we're souls in a human body. And so I think it's more those are just awakening. But I do think we will all understand our gifts, like our purpose, our role in this connective time. And I realized that feels very important. Let me go into just the kind of channel message I got from the elements, because it was through this message that I realized why, and the divine timing of the retreat being in June, because I do feel like a heavy energy coming in, and almost like a warlike energy. I'll be totally honest. And I do feel that more towards July, where it's really kicking off, but we're going to kind of see it amplified, it feels like. And it's not to be afraid. Again, it's just, it's a time that gives us the opportunity to stand in our power, to stand for the people, to stand for our planet. Like, it gives us this beautiful opportunity to allow all of these transits to clear what needs to go, and to have what comes in come in. But I realized we're not prepared yet. Like, and we need to prepare. And when I really went into that, I realized it was us, like our bodies and our connection to everything. So the message I got from the elements is, and I will say, I think I pulled in a message pretty much for the retreat, almost a little bit, because it very much was like, this is why it's important. But it really feels like this is going to be an inner quest to ground into the power of all. And it was really that one sentence that got me understanding what we were preparing for almost. So the elements are really going to try to teach us how to embody our physical body with roots. So it's almost like, I kept saying like the lotus flower, but our roots are not quite like a tree. Like, yes, we have these deep roots holding us down, but we're above it, like in the sense of like almost like a lotus flower. So they're going to teach us how to actually reconnect with the roots. So it wasn't about growing them deeper, because it felt like we already have them, but it was about connecting to our roots again, almost like connecting deeply into them and understanding how rooted we actually all are within the earth. And when we reconnect with them, they're showing me like we will no longer be moved, because we're going to know what we believe. Like, we're going to know where we stand. And that felt very important and very true to kind of why they're needing us right now. We need to know how to ground down into ourselves, into the earth, into us as a one. So they want to bring us back to our true joy. So there is this level of what we've seen is things have sped up, and there's social media, and there's this and there's that, and we try to buy our joy sometimes through possessions, and we try to travel a lot, but they were even showing me like travel has become a way of escapism. Like we just need to get out of our life for a moment. We just need to get out of reality for a moment. And that's not actually what traveling is for. And so it's reconnecting us with understanding the simplicity of joy and the now of joy. And each moment is our actual life. Like, they were showing us like each day is the day that we choose to live with full joy and not looking like having something to just constantly look forward to. It's really about now. And that's how nature lives. They live in joy constantly because of how everything is moving around them so perfectly. So, and they need to teach us how to refill our life force is what it felt like. So again, there is this, we've been running on empty, and I think that's where we will use pharmaceuticals, or we will overtake supplements, or we will do anything to just feel full, like, and like have some life force a little bit, or what we would like to call energy. And that's actually not the way we refill. And they didn't totally teach me how. I'm guessing it's something with nature, to be honest, but it really that's going to come through is how we refill our life force energy. So we've moved so far from our vitality is what it feels like. And in a weird way, I want to call it like a nature vitality. But it felt like vitality as a whole. And I want to point out, they were also showing me like we take away their vitality. So like how we're feeding them and what we're like, how we're treating nature and what we're doing, like, and as their vitality gets lowered, our vitality gets lowered because we're connected. And so it really felt very much like we both need to re-up on vitality because we have a lot that's about to come at us. And they need to be strong and we need to be strong. And I don't know if you've noticed, but nature's been doing a pretty heavy clearing of what needs to go so they can strengthen. And so it kind of feels like it's time for us to step up and do our part just a little bit. And so we are going into a time that our bodies need to be full is the way it felt, but just of life force, of vitality, of connection with ourselves. They need to remind us of our full power. So power came up again and really understanding and stepping into our power and what we were capable of. They're almost telling me like, we're prepared and we're standing in our full power. And we as a collective in nature are clearing and doing what we need to do to rise our vitality even higher. But it's almost like we need you to now step up as a collective. Like it's not individually, but you know, we each individually need to do our part, but step up as a collective so we're all prepared together. Because when I say I sense a warlike energy, it doesn't just feel like here, it feels up here. So it feels almost like an energetic, let me not use the word war. What's another word, Liv?
Dissonance.
Okay.
Or,
Okay. Yeah.
or agitation.
Yeah. Like it feels like there is this energetic dissonance happening alongside of physical. So imagine like us on this plane is physical, but like nature also is saying like it's not just here, it's here. And we need to we need the power of all to like really step up against it is kind of how it felt. Not in a scary way, just like in a general way. Like that's what's happening way. They will also show us how held we are. So it's almost like they were saying, like, you're not doing this alone. Like, understand that we're supporting you and you support us. And together we're fully 100% supported. So it was just, and our support reaches far beyond humans. So like, yes, our community here is big, or like the Vibe tribe she has, like, you guys are a great community and you're big, but they're like, that's not your only community. Like, we are your community. Like, we are as much support as your neighbor. Like, and remember that. And so there does seem to be like kind of a more of a remembering there. So that was what I got. And so I realized what I've been kind of feeling on I need to prepare, because I have felt that, and it has felt like a little bit like, what does that mean? It really means us together, our bodies, our understanding of who we are. Like, this is our time now. And I think Uranus happens around July. I feel like I remember you telling me yesterday. we have this retreat in June. So now I kind of understand, like all the pieces are coming together just a little bit to help us fully understand and stand in our grounded, like rooted power and remember who we are. Maybe understand what our gifts might be in this time of coming together. And this is not a time to go apart. And I did hear her yesterday say something where like she had heard me and Liv yesterday, we were talking like some other kind of psychics or intuitives kind of say like there's like a separation. If you're on this consciousness, there's a war. If you're on a different consciousness, like you're out of it. And I realized it's not so much that we're out of it, it's that we're consciously seeing above it. And again, re-pulling in, because I do think it's going to happen on the physical plane, and we're in the physical plane, but like it's not a war of fear. It's a war of how much more can we understand who we are through this? How much more can I pull in love? How much more can I connect with people and understand where they're coming from? Which that level of consciousness rises us above it. So we see it from a different perspective, it feels like. So Neptune in Aries, the message I got around that is like major spirituality. I definitely, I want to call it mature spirituality because, and I also really want to call it like a combination of religion and spirituality. And when I say religion, I mean the rituals of religion. I mean,
like esoteric,
yeah,
like back to the original roots of intention.
yes, because there is a maturity to it, and so many of the like people that I work with, like clients of mine who are religious, they have this maturity to them with it. They understand there's reasons for why they pray at certain times, and there's reasons for why they fast at certain times, and there's like a beauty to that and a maturity to that. And that is actually what I feel like, because I feel when I felt into it, I felt like I was in a dream and I'm coming out of a dream, and everything that happened in that dream was inner. So like there was a lot of inner work that happened, I feel like, over the last several years. One, on our physical bodies, understanding that. Two,